Hello class. My name is Carly Jordan, and this is my equity action plan. So we're going to start off with the question, what does multicultural education even mean? And now we're going to define what multicultural education is. Multicultural education is a process of comprehensive school reform and basic education for all students. It challenges and rejects racism and other forms of discrimination in schools and society, and accepts and affirms the pluralism, ethnic, racial, linguistic, religious, economic, gender, and sexual orientation, among other things, that students, their communities, and teachers reflect. So from there, we're going to go to a fill in the blank with multicultural education is. So multicultural education is anti-racist education. Being anti-racist and anti-discriminatory means being mindful of how some students are favored over others, and school policies and practices such as curriculum, choice of materials, sorting policies, and teacher interactions and relationships with students and their families. Next, we have multicultural education is basic education. Multicultural literacy consists of the skills and abilities to identify the creators of knowledge and their interests, to uncover the assumptions of knowledge, to view knowledgeable from diverse ethnic and cultural perspectives, and to use knowledge to guide action that will create a humane and just world. And last, multicultural education is a process. Because multicultural education is a process, it debunks simplistic and erroneous conventional wisdom at the same time that it requires dismantling policies and practices that are disadvantageous for some students at the expense of others. Next, we'll be talking about the basic principles for equity literacy. Number 1 is the direct confrontation principle, which says that equity approaches that fail to directly confront inequity play a significant role in sustaining inequity. So without confrontation, there's no way of debunking that systemic issue. Number 2, the prioritization principle, which means each policy and practice decision should be examined through the question, how will this impact the most marginalized members of our community? So by starting off with that question, you're able to prioritize the people and the things that will help to sustain equity within the classroom. And number 3, the redistribution principle, which is equity requires the redistribution of material, cultural, and social access and opportunity. And that just means that in order to find equity within the classroom and any other place in life, we have to redistribute the opportunities and the materials in order for every person to feel they have equity. So next we're going to talk about my goals. So these are my realistic and measurable classroom goals. Number 1 is to create a course that's content is round and fluid. This goal rejects a monocultural education and promotes a class flexible enough to address the complex and truthful cultural content of our world. Number 2 is encourage the discomfort that may come with being actively anti-racist and anti-discriminatory. One of the reasons schools are reluctant to tackle racism and discrimination is that these are disturbing topics for those who have traditionally benefited by their race, gender, and social class, among other advantageous differences. Number 3 is to promote inclusivity. Consequently, to be inclusive and balanced, multicultural curriculum must, by definition, be anti-racist. Teaching does not become more honest and critical simply by becoming more inclusive, but this is a necessary first step in ensuring that students have access to a wide variety of viewpoints. And number 4 is to ensure an equitable education environment. No individual identity group shares a single mindset, value system, learning style, or communication style. Identity-specific equity frameworks like group level learning styles most always are based on simplicity and stereotypes, not equity. So then you guys might be asking, so what's the plan, Carly? And how will I uphold these as a teacher in my future classroom? And this is where I come to, in order to maintain the goals as a teacher, I will commit to these 4 promises. I will stay informed. I will recognize implicit biases and constantly be aware of the implicit bias that I might have in my own mind. Prioritize equity over peace, and resist simple solutions to complex problems. So now we've come to the characteristics of a successful multicultural class. In order to know that I have a 5-star rating of equity in my class, I would expect students to be able to do these 4 things. Number 1, students see and recognize representation of all different perspectives. Number 2, all students are given equal opportunity, and they also see that and understand that themselves. Number 3, students understand and encourage equity over equality. So understanding the difference between equity and equality and what it means for one of their peers to receive that. And number 4, students are their own advocates, and also they're able to represent themselves as well as be a support system for their differing peers. And then you guys might be asking me, and what happens when things go wrong? Because they will. When, not if. And so here are some detours and solutions that I have come up with. Number 1, pacing for privilege detour. The hard truth is that racial equity cannot be achieved with an obsessive commitment to meeting people where they are, when where they are is fraught with racial bias and privilege. The solution to that would be an equity-minded teacher. You have to start where we need to be. Equity is neither optional or negotiable. This is who we are as a school. These are the values to which we need to be held accountable to. Number 2 is deficient ideology detour. For example, presuming we can resolve racial inequities by simply teaching students of color to have grit is like presuming we can resolve climate change by teaching coastal communities to swim faster. The solution to that detour would be eliminating marginalizations. Equity initiatives should focus on eliminating conditions that marginalize students, never on fixing students of color. And number 3, celebrating diversity detour. Students of color are used essentially as props for the gentle diversity education of white students, which allows white people to opt out of considering racial justice. And the solution to that is bring all perspectives to learning. White educators are asking them to celebrate a diversity in which their experiences are invisible. So instead of allowing that invisibility to happen, you have to bring all perspectives to the learning environment, especially when teaching of culture. Yes, so that's my presentation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being available. And I just want to say that I think we are all capable of way more than we know we are. And this seems like a really hard issue to tackle, but if we go in with a really positive and hopeful mindset, I think that we can achieve a lot of things. And on top of that, I want to also say, with that being said, if you don't see failure in your future, you're not challenging yourself enough. So in terms of this, like, I see myself failing again and again in making sure my class is fully equitable, but without that, I see myself not succeeding. So, yeah, thank you so much again. And yeah, that's all.